The movie opens in Ca during the Vietnam War, where we see two colonels named Terry Childers and Hayes Hodges. They turn a coin and start their journeys by separating from each other with their respective units. Terry and his men feel the enemy's presence and crouch forward, where they get attacked by the enemy troops. Terry, with his unit, gains the upper hand on the enemy with the loss of a few men and captures two Vietnamese soldiers. Terry calls Tone, a Vietnam soldier of his crew, to talk to them, asking about the location of their other crews, but they do not tell them anything. Gibson from Terry's crew contacts Hayes and asks him about their location. The unit is attacked by the Vietnam soldiers, which results in the death of all soldiers, with Hayes getting shot in the leg. Terry and his men listen to the sounds of the bullet and ask the war prisoner named Bin Lacau to contact and withdraw his troops. Bin Lacau keeps watching Terry without saying anything. Terry warns him to do it otherwise. He will kill his radio operator and eventually shoots the radio operator in the head, telling Bin Lacau that he will kill him too and he can save himself by doing what Terry is asking him. After that, Vietnam troops are withdrawn from there, and Hayes gets sad after looking at the dead bodies of his men lying there. Terry and his men rescue Hayes, and the scene shifts to Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, where a party is arranged for Hayes, and he meets Terry there. Hayes is given a sword as a reward for his great services by Terry and gives a speech telling his fellow Marines about his plans for the future after retirement. After the party, Terry and Hayes can be seen walking together, where Terry tells Hayes about his new orders with the 24th Marine Expeditionary Unit and tells Hayes about his new life, which he is going to start after retirement. Terry is seen on the USS Wake Island in Disher Ocean, where he is called by John, who tells him about the new mission of evacuating the USA Embassy in Yemen, warning him not to harm anyone there, saying that they are just going to babysit there and the situation is under control there. Terry and his men get their choppers ready and begin their journey to the embassy. We see the embassy that was surrounded by a large number of demonstrators, and we see a young boy named Justin with his mother, who was afraid of the situation and were the family of Ambassador Moraine, who was in charge of the embassy. The ambassador was worried a lot and was asking about choppers to evacuate the embassy. The demonstrators start to attack the embassy with stones. Soon, the choppers reach there that are attacked by snipers and Yemen men on the roofs. The demonstrators attack the guards of the embassy and set the cars and set embassy on fire with the help of petrol bombs. Terry tells his soldiers that the situation is worse here than what he was told. Terry enters the embassy with his soldiers and manages to rescue the ambassador with his family. During this, the Marines were receiving heavy fire from the snipers on the roofs. Terry asks the ambassador to sit in the chopper with his family and goes to bring the American flag from the roof of the embassy. Terry gives the flag to ambassador, who tells him that he will not forget his bravery and leaves from there. Terry returns to his Marines, who were injured badly and were under attack by the demonstrators. As Terry reaches there, Krasovich is killed with two other soldiers on which. Terry orders Captain Lee to attack the demonstrators, but he hesitates, saying that he can see many children and women there, but Terry orders him to shoot them all. They kill many old men, women, and children there. Terry asks Captain Lee to inform the headquarters that they have completed the mission. We see a political leader named Mr. Sakal, who is very angry, and a general comes to meet him. Sakal tells the general that America is going to suffer due to his miscalculation of Terry by losing its place in many countries like Egypt, Arab, and Yemen as the incident has gotten international attention. He tells him that they have killed 83 innocent people, and they are responsible for this all, saying they are all going to suffer due to this. General leaves from there, and Sakal's assistant shows him a videotape from the embassy camera that shows the innocence of Colonel Terry, but he hides the tape asking his assistant to forget about this tape. On the other hand, Terry meets a general who tells him that he is going to face court-martial and has been charged with murder, which shocks Terry. The general tells him that these are direct orders from the National Command Authority and asks Terry to tell him the truth. Terry tells him about demonstrators who were carrying weapons and attacked them first, but the general says he has tried a lot to save him, but things are out of his control. Terry meets Hayes and requests him to be his attorney, but he says that he is not a good lawyer and denies doing so at first. On the other hand, Sakal introduces Biggs, who is the lawyer against Terry, to the generals in a meeting. Biggs tells them about the respect for Terry, saying he has served his country and he will work only according to true pieces of evidence and not against him. Hayes is seen upset, recalling everything that has happened in Vietnam, after which he starts weeping. Hayes goes to meet his family, where he meets his son and his father. They all have lunch together and talk about Terry's case, saying that he is going to be his attorney, which shocks everyone, and his son does not like this. After lunch, Hayes meets his father, who asks him not to take his case as Terry has pushed the country 25 years back, but Hayes tells him that he owes him and cannot do this now. Hayes and his assistant were talking about the embassy footage when Terry arrives there and is told that 2 of his men are going to testify against him. Terry gets angry while telling his services for the country, and Hayes asks him to keep calm. Biggs is seen planning to present the pieces of evidence to the court when someone suggests looking at Terry's previous record, but he denies, saying that Terry has served his country honorably and he cannot do this to him. Terry is seen in his car when the media was waiting for him outside the military base. A boy misbehaves with him, due to which Terry loses control and attacks him. Hayes goes to meet Biggs, who tells him Terry has very little time to live as he has already been suggested the death penalty, saying that he has watched him beating a kid. Hayes goes to meet a general to request give him some time as he wanted to go to Yemen. The general allows him to go to Yemen but says that the court will start on the same date. Hayes goes to meet Terry, who has locked himself in the house and is drinking. Terry tells Hayes that the military has taken his uniform and they may kill him. Terry also adds that if he is considered guilty now, then he will be guilty of everything that he has done for his country. Hayes goes to Yemen and meets a Marine named Hustings, who takes him to the hotel, telling him about the man he asked to call. Hayes goes to embassy and starts observing everything and captures pictures of everything that he finds suspicious there. On the roof, when Hayes was having a look at the embassy camera, which was fine at that time, he gets afraid of the people who were praying nearby and watches a small girl who lost her leg in this incident. Hayes picks up a cassette from ambassador's office and, after that, goes to meet the leader of the demonstrators, who tells him about being shot first by the Marines. Hayes then meets the in charge of police and comes to know that no weapons were found near the dead ones. One day, Hayes was wandering alone when some locals surround him and start beating him, but he barely manages to get rid of them and reaches his office. Later, Hayes watches the same injured girl and follows her to a clinic where he watches many victims. Dr. Amar comes there and takes him to show other patients, saying that most of them are going to die due to improper medication. Hayes gets very sad after seeing this all and leaves with a heavy heart. Hayes returns from there and keeps hallucinating in the airplane about the Vietnam incident. Hayes takes a lot of drinks to deal with the stress, and after reaching back, he goes directly to Terry's house, and they both fight with each other. Hayes tells him that he has not found a single piece of evidence in his right, and after the fight, he states his feelings about the Vietnam War, due to which he was very ashamed of himself. Sokal is seen watching the videotape of the security and comes to know that Terry is innocent. He calls the ambassador who comes there to meet him. Sokal asks him to give a false statement to the court as they both don't want to risk their careers. After Moraine leaves, Sokal throws the videotape into the fire. The next morning, Hayes reaches late at the court, and after that, Biggs makes his statement in front of the jury, stating that Colonel Terry is guilty of 83 innocent deaths and adds that he has proof to show this. After this, Hayes gives his statement to the jury, saying that Terry has served the country for a long time and he knows him very well. Hayes also adds he will manage to prove him innocent because he believes him. Moraine is called as a witness and gives his statement against Terry, saying that he was very disrespectful and aggressive at that time. Terry is shocked at his statement. Hayes questions him about the flag, but he changes his statement and lies to the court. After that, Hayes goes to meet Moraine's wife and child and asks his wife to testify in favor of Terry by telling the truth. She tells him that Terry was respectful and polite with them, but she cannot do this because of her husband. Captain Lee is called, who tries to cover Colonel Terry, but Biggs traps him, and he has to tell the truth and has to speak things that were against Terry. After Captain Lee, Dr. Amar is called, who is asked to translate the cassettes that were picked up by Hayes from Yemen. He translates the cassettes that were about killing the Americans. Drive. Amar tells that he does not belong to any jihadist group, and he is telling what he has heard from his clinic. Sokal is investigated by Biggs first, who shows his satisfaction with the decision of sending Colonel Terry on the mission. But Hayes investigates him about the videotape and shows the pieces of evidence to the jury that it was sent to the government but did not show up in court. Sokol tells them, he was not given any tape. We see Terry, who salutes the American flag and recalls how he has defended the flag in the embassy, due to which his eyes were wet with tears. Terry is then seen in the witness box and is questioned by Hayes about the incident. Terry tells him that he has seen the demonstrators carrying weapons with them. That's why he ordered them to attack. Biggs questions him and gives him some pages of articles to read out loud that prove Terry is guilty. Biggs asks him whether he warned them before attacking or not, and Terry says no, he has not warned them. Biggs says that no law gives Terry the authority to order the attack on innocent civilians. Biggs then asks him whether he will kill an unarmed person or not, and Terry replies negatively. Biggs asks him then why did he order to kill the innocent people without any authority. Terry gets infuriated by this and shouts, saying that his Marines were dying and he was not the one to wait for more to die and follow the law. Everyone looks at him, and Hayes asks the jury for recess. Biggs says that the jury is done with the case after seeing his short temper of Terry. During recess, Hayes meets Terry and tells him that he has messed things up, and he does not know what will happen next. After recess, Bin Lakow is called in front of the jury, and on being asked by Biggs, Bin Lakow tells that Terry has killed his unarmed radio operator in front of his eyes. The jury is shocked after listening to this, and Hayes then questions him. Hayes asks him whether he would have done the same if he were in Terry's place to save his men, and Bin Lakow replies, saying yes, he would have done the same under such conditions. The jury announces another recess, and after recess, Biggs tries to convince the jury to declare Terry guilty of the murder of 83 innocent people. He had no authority to order that attack, but he did what makes the conditions worse for Terry. While Hayes tries to convince the jury in favor of Terry, telling them about the videotape and showing the picture of the camera on the rooftop that was fine and focusing on the crowd. He also tells the jury that Terry has saved his life and that everything he has today is because of Terry. Hayes closes his statement by saying that the decision must be made wisely. After that, Hayes meets his son and dad, who were there in the courtroom, and they congratulate him for his excellent performance in front of the jury. Sokol, on the other hand, is seen sitting at a meeting where he receives, and Hayes comes there to meet him. Hayes threatens him for what he has done and leaves. In the courtroom, we see that Terry is not considered guilty, and all of the charges are removed from him. Terry gets very excited and pays gratitude to Hayes by hugging him and leaves from there. After everyone leaves, Biggs meets Hayes and tells Hayes that he has picked the wrong side, but Hayes leaves from there telling him about the Vietnam War. When Terry leaves the courtroom, he watches the media waiting for him and looks at Bin Lakow, who is about to leave. They both exchange salutes emotionally, and Terry leaves from there, and the movie ends here.